sure.
Well, tell us a little bit about your role and your consulting company.
Yeah, totally. So I run a company called Slaterock Automation. Really started out as web design, moved into SEO, and then the world of automation and really layering, the power of automation on top of, I'm sorry, the power of AI on top of automation as, these new technologies have come out. So right now, our main focus and our main client base is on SEO management, and that's where Visual Sitemaps has played a role for us. And so, I think what we'll dive into today is, how we're using it, why we're using it. But I think the main thing is just providing a visual for customers, and that's been, the biggest value we've seen, especially when trying to explain what we actually do to our clients.
Awesome. And what are your typical clientele like? Um, what types are they?
Yeah, so our clients are usually small businesses or startups. I want to say anywhere between 5 and 10 employees. Typically, we start working with them after they've gone through the first version of their website. Usually it's very, very simple. It's something just to get their name out, right? And really just have a place to show that they're a real business. When we come in is when they're looking for that phase two. They need, a serious website that can actually handle some of the minor, functions that they need, while also um, getting the reach that they need in organic search results, and not just organic, but also paid results as well. So, yeah, I would say mainly small businesses and startups.
Cool. And what did your workflow look like before discovering Visual Sitemaps, and which tools or processes did you rely on?
Yeah. So to be honest with you, I wasn't all that familiar with the concept of visual sitemaps. I think, um, you know, what we would do is typically just run some kind of audit report, right, using let's say SEMrush or something like that. And we would just present those issues to the customer and say, hey, listen, these are the issues that we're finding. When we fix the issues on your site, we can expect to see this, bump in traffic. And this is really on the technical SEO side. Um, and it was always very hard to communicate those issues because there was no real way, aside from looking at a report, or some kind of, in some cases, just a PDF, what that actually meant, right? What do search engines see when they're looking at a website? And for small business owners that really have no concept of SEO and site structure and site planning, um, it didn't hit home, right? They didn't understand it. They were just seeing a report of some kind of things that they didn't understand at all, and it was challenging to try and get those points across. And now using Visual Sitemap, when we're on a call with a customer, we can literally pull it up and show them, hey, look at your site structure right now. You see all these random pages all over the place, right? And you see the different subcategories, and subpages and orphaned pages. We can clearly show our customer that, hey, there's issues here. You can see it, you can visualize it, and here's how we're going to fix it, and how it will help your website rank higher in search results.
Cool, cool, like that. Can you do a little maybe show and tell, describe a recent project that you worked on that exemplifies this a typical workflow? Like, what was the scope? How many people involved? What were the objectives for the site?
Yeah,
And what challenges like you faced?
yeah, definitely. Let's pull up one here. Um, this is a much smaller site, but it'll make it easy for us here. But this was a company. It's a, so- oh, I have to send a request to share my screen. Okay,
There you go.
that should be good. So let me pull this up. So as you can see, a smaller site. Now we did clean this up when we first started working with them. It was a big mess here with all different pages, a lot of orphaned pages, things that they didn't even know existed that were still ranking one way or another, services that they don't provide anymore, service pages, right, for services they don't provide anymore. So basically,
Mhm.
to take it from the top, this is a security company. They install security hardware at physical locations. They're located in Texas. They were going through a site migration from one platform. I don't remember what platform specifically, moving to Wix. And this is a good example because we were actually working with a designer who really wasn't familiar with SEO and how to properly structure a site. Um, she had built the site on Wix and didn't link anything together properly, right? She didn't move the pages over. She kind of renamed all the different um, subfolders, for their services, cut out a bunch of services pages that they still had that were getting, nice traffic each month. And so the first thing that we did was we fired up a visual sitemap to see what was going on, and actually worked with the designer to get an understanding of what had been done, from the previous site to the new one that she had published at the time. It was already published and live. And so, uh, using visual sitemaps, we were able to go back and actually piece together, all of the different pages that were either lost or, just non-existent anymore, to make sure that we lined everything up with their old site that was already getting thousands of visitors a month, for their exact target market, people that were looking for the services they were offering. Um, and so this is a cleaned up version of that for sure, but um, we should probably run an update here as well to see some of the newer posts that have gone up. But yeah, this was definitely one of the projects that helped significantly, not so much for us, but for the client and both the designer we were working with and the customer themselves, the marketing person at this company, because it just made sure everyone was on the same page. Again, looking at an actual visual instead of just hypotheticals or even maybe some data points on a spreadsheet. Oh, I think you're on mute there.
Great, thanks for that. And were there any particular features beyond the mapping and showing this particular structure that is based on the URLs? Were there any other features that you found useful in terms of putting everyone on the same page, in terms of planning things? Anything that you discovered pleasantly that added more value to you as part of this workflow?
Yeah, totally. I think, very simply, the ability to share it with everyone, and whoever has the link and view it, makes it very, very easy. For example, again, at the customer themselves, we are in direct contact with their marketing person. The marketing person is in direct contact with the owner of the company, who really doesn't want to be tied on any emails. So having the shareable link that anybody could view, I mean, although it sounds silly, a lot of platforms don't have that, and it becomes a challenge when trying to distribute information. So the shareable links were a huge, huge help. This is just one example. It's the same for many of the companies we work with, especially because they're smaller businesses. Usually everybody has a hand in the process, but they're not always tied in all the communication directly.
Okay, cool. Were you familiar or aware that as part of that layer of collaboration, that different team members and stakeholders can also add annotations to the screenshots and also plan at project level and on a page level plan content as well? Did you happen to catch those Easter eggs?
So I know that there's the ability to drop some comments in. The planning features, I have to dive into a little more. That's definitely something to take a look at. I think, we found tremendous value, like I said, in just having the visual there for people to see. Um,
Mhm.
and they love it, right? So I think taking a step further on our end, to now go in and actually show a plan, if that's something that is available, that would be really cool. I have to dive into that more.
Totally, totally. I'll send you some tutorials on that.
Sure.
Yeah. The whole idea is that um, using this visual architecture as the um, foundation for everyone involved in the team and in the project to start to plan and talk and iterate uh, a better information architecture, better SEO plan, a better content strategy, designs, removing pages, adding pages, clustering pages topically, all that good stuff is
Yeah.
what we got. Um, Great. And so the overall effect has been like pretty satisfied client. Everyone's kind of um, understands really what they have, what the intents are for the project. I imagine than prior to that not having this, right?
Yeah. So I think some of the best feedback that we've gotten is, well, we've never seen anything like this before. And that's a huge plus for us, especially when, through some of the partnerships we have or the marketplaces that we're a part of, you're in competition, right? There's other agencies or there's other professionals, that are, you know, trying to pitch their services. And when we can actually provide a much deeper understanding using visual sitemaps, and we often just show it on a Zoom call, right? We'll fire it up a few minutes before the call starts, depending on the size of the site and how many pages we're going to crawl. But we'll
Mm.
fire it up and we'll go through it on the call just to show the customer. And like I said, the feedback we get is, wow, we've never seen anything like this before. This makes so much more sense.
So you've actually used this on a discovery call for prospecting clients as well?
Yes, yes. That's where we
Okay.
see the most success with it. It's one of those things we show it in the start, in the beginning, before they're even a customer, to provide that differentiator, right? The piece that,
Nice.
you know, here we can show you exactly what we're going to do and why, and
Mm.
you realize the problems on the site, not just on a report, but it's specifically when it comes to site structure. We could
Right.
visualize those for you here using visual sitemaps.
Amazing. That's very cool to hear. So yeah, that's like almost very difficult to even quantify that kind of value because obviously as you acquire a client, it may start with a small, handful of pages of a redesign, but obviously quickly uh, scaffold into, more services from that in all sorts of directions. So that's pretty cool to hear. Um, you mentioned a bunch of other tools in your workflow when you do this type of initial analysis and auditing. Is there anything else that is in your toolbox that you think has been useful for you to complement visual sitemaps?
Yeah, so for right now, especially when talking to prospects, we use really three two or three different tools, in the beginning, and it's just because they're simple, easy to use, and very efficient. Uh, the first one is SEO Optimer, and they do reports. And a lot of times, I think, depending on the plan, you can white label them, but it's automated. And so we automate those reports for our prospects, anybody that demonstrates any kind of interest. And then, which I believe we actually can do a visual sitemaps as well. You'd probably be able to tell me, but we can automate a visual sitemap as well. When somebody's looking for a visual tied to it, right?
Yeah, we have one of powerful features is scheduled crawls,
Mhm.
essentially. And those are, you could set up the frequency of that. And they're basically, it was made for one use case, but then amazingly enough, the market has been abusing it for so many other use cases. So the first use case was for, it's not just that it wasn't really intended to just automate this crawling in the future timeline date. It was thought of to do that in specific in unison with the other feature, which is comparing any changes from one crawl to another crawl
Mhm.
in time. So essentially, the changes are simply the scope of a site. So have any pages have been lost or added since the last crawl, and any content changes as well that are visual, meaning has the label of a button changed, has the color changed, has the photo been replaced, has pricing changed, anything that is a pixel moving in position from the last position, our AI picks up on that and visually shows that to you in a report. It calculates the percentage of similarity between the two crawls, and it'll send notifications visually via email of pages that it discovered that have the changes,
Mhm.
and notify different particular people on the team based on a threshold of similarity. So if you want to only be alerted of like major changes, you can have that setting, versus a designer to be alerted of micro changes for their design Q&A. So the main use case was to keep consistent in your content and your scope Q&A, so that if things, things break from release to release and people make mistakes from release to release. So that was the number one use case for internal, automated QA,
Mhm.
consistency, cohesion. But then, as you can imagine, a lot of consultants and owners started using that to keep track of changes to competitor sites
Mhm.
and market areas, verticals, topics that they are of interest in. They would put in a URL. As long as the URL is publicly accessible, then we will crawl it. We will take a snapshot of what we have. We will then, they would schedule, let's say, a month in advance, a day in advance, however frequently. If the site is making constant changes, they just adjust the frequency of the crawling schedule, and then the comparison is run automatically on that, and then they get notified of those changes.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it's quite the Intel tool,
Yeah.
internally and externally.
Yeah. No, that is it's really cool. I actually haven't really thought about using it for some competitor sites, but I can see how that could be really, really valuable. Um, Going back to the question of the tools we're using. So I think, those are the main two, SEO Optimer and Visual Sitemaps. Before we get on a call with the prospect, those are the two things that we typically have
Hmm.
ready to go. And for that exact reason, we have a report. It's easily generated. There's some information on there that will help the customer understand what some of the issues that we're finding actually mean. And then we fire up visual sitemaps to show them on their site, hey, these are the pages that you're actually seeing the problems on. Here's what your site structure looks like to a search engine, right? And typically the first time we do that, it's all over the place because they have a bunch of pages that sometimes you even see editors that use test pages that are live and indexed, and it just doesn't make sense. So, yeah, we
Mm.
love using visual sitemaps for that.
And then afterwards, like when you go into production, what kind of project management tools do you use? How do you get into the flow of like, okay, now we know what we've got, and we need to now start taking actionable steps to it? Because I imagine maybe sometimes it's a blend of like you doing the work, but then also maybe someone on the client's end has to do the work as well because they have access to the CMS, or they become a dependency of doing things as well. So like, how do you orchestrate all that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we typically do is, let's say we're talking to the prospect, we show them, what we were just talking about, the report and the visual sitemap, and they say, okay, we're ready to move forward. Our typical project is what we call a technical SEO setup. So that's our like kind of barrier to entry product. It's the idea is that we go in, we fully optimize the site so it's ready and able to be indexed on search engines properly. And typically, after we do that, we give the customer the option to either, hey, here's a loose content plan that we think you should execute on to help generate traffic, and target people that may be interested in your product or service. Or we could do it for you, right? And here's everything that comes with a management plan, and here's some of the results we've got in the past, right? All that kind of stuff. So on our initial technical SEO setup, because we do that even, if somebody comes to us saying, hey, we want you to manage our content, we always start with the technical SEO setup, because, I'm sure as many of the viewers have seen that a website that's been around for a while still probably has a ton of issues that could be corrected to help their content rank in search results. So, anyway, the tools that we use a platform called Flowlu for our business manager, or we call it our business manager, but it's really handles all of our invoicing, our client communication. It's basically a client portal once we get it all fired up for our customer, where they can provide feedback. We provide all the updates and really the timeline for the project or the workflow for the project. Um, and visual sitemaps being a part of that in the beginning to show the customer, hey, this is what's going on. Usually in our final report, after we make all the changes that are necessary, what we'll do is rerun the sitemap, right, recrawl the website, and then make any other adjustments that we may need to with visual sitemaps, just to show the customer that, hey, this is what was done. We removed these pages. Here's what your sitemap looks like now. And we do a little bit of before and after. And so that really helps them, again, visualize the changes, because so often, when working SEO, a lot of the stuff that we're doing is behind the scenes. A business owner, or, a marketing person inside of business, they don't see much of the changes that are done on the site unless we're editing content, directly, or
Mhm.
changing, meta titles and descriptions, stuff like that.
Gotcha. What was the name? Can you repeat for that client management tool again? I've never heard of it. Flow or something?
It's called Flowlu, Flowlu.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I'll check them out. Yeah, there's been so many over the decades,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and they're quite interesting. Did you know that uh, it's not? We need to actually improve this feature to actually make it accessible. But you can actually embed a live sitemap into your documentation via an iframe. So like we do with our flows, which is a
Mhm.
separate new feature for whiteboard collaborative canvases that we have for processes. That also that has a sharing or embeddable feature, but we need to actually literally make a button because it's on our backlog. But yeah, you can actually embed these maps in your reports. Let's say like this portal, let's say, or any other online page, essentially, that goes over your proposal or the changes that you made, and they have a live interactive sitemap that they can actually poke around in, and not just a graphic. So I think you'll appreciate that when I share that.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely, definitely.
cool. And another thing, it sounds like is kind of validating where we're going with this product is, um, at the end of this day, it's like the goal is to improve a site and improve a company's bottom line that uses the site for whatever business goals that they have. Whether that site directly is an e-commerce site that literally generates money for them directly, or it's a marketing site that pulls in leads for them to close for whatever services that they're selling. And so these tools, like Visual Sitemaps, we're trying to get them more into a position where they provide and inform you and your customer more and more and more in ways that just looking at spreadsheets of data really don't maybe do it. And so one of those directions that we're looking into is just layering in more on top of the map, on top of the page, traffic data from Google Analytics, and having that information handy, maybe some SERP information handy, keyword information handy, and to really have that as part of the snapshot of what you're seeing already in terms of everything else that we're showing, so that you see more dimension to how bad is the site, based on these important metrics that are important to an e-commerce site or a small business site, and start visualizing, unearthing that, and then tracking that as well. Because if you make some proposed changes and they go out and get implemented, your expectation is that some of those KPIs will start moving in some directions, so especially on key cornerstone pages that do some high level conversion. So we're going to be looking into offering that essentially, so that we close the loop on that, and will be much more integrated, the impact essentially that it has. And then phase 2 would be, well, let's throw in some AI that's fine-tuned to understand this aspect of web architecture, of these metrics, of this business in the context of competitors, and things like that. So we're really excited about the next steps there. Awesome.
I think that will be really, really helpful, especially to see how certain pages have an impact on the flow of visitors, on their site when they come from, let's say, even if it's coming from a certain source, especially, it would be really cool to see that. There's, I think, certain platforms we use, we're Wix partners, so a lot of our sites are built in Wix, or come from Wix, and they have some similar reporting. It's not the best, but you can get an idea of where people are coming from and where they go once they land on your site, and it's always really interesting to see that. You could see a lot of user intent, from some specific sources, but having that data right in Visual Sitemaps, especially when we're talking to a prospect, that would be really cool. Really, really cool.
For sure. It just comes down to plugging in, if the site has an analytics that we can tap into with the API, basically. Well, I wasn't familiar with Wix's analytical tools. I didn't know if they had their own or they leverage Google Analytics or something else, or Adobe. Is it their own stuff? I imagine they must have their own by now.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's their own, and it's pretty good, but I think there's a lot of different reports. There's one that I'm thinking of where you can see, the where our traffic is coming from and then what pages they go to, and it almost breaks down, similar to how on your site, on Visual Sitemaps, you can have the horizontal, the horizontal map. Right? Like I could share my screen really quick and show you, because I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I imagine it's some type of funnel.
Yeah. So what they'll have is, let's say it's Google search, then Instagram and Facebook right? They have all the sources listed here, right? And they
Mm,
show it, as arrows going into, the site.
mm,
Um, and you can actually change the page, the first page they land on. So let's just say you have, this is the home page, right? That's the easiest to just figure out is okay. You have all these sources that are leading to your homepage. Um, what happens when they go to your homepage? What's like the next page that most people go to? And it will show you, on using some lines, right? Just similar to this. I think they have like different colors, or the thickness of the line is different depending on volume of people. But they'll show you that that it goes to this page. And when you click on, let's say, this page, it will then show you the next thing, right? So of people that come from Instagram, go to your homepage, click on your service page, most of them then go to, and you kind of just keep breaking it down, the different layers, um,
got it.
which is, it's helpful. It's definitely helpful.
For sure. No, it's the more data, the more of a story you have, there's less guesswork. Yeah, that's definitely where we're aiming at with our visualizations as well. So cool. Uh, well, I think that kind of maybe wraps it up. I believe for me, I really appreciate that you giving us a full try. I'll send you some more videos for some of these other powerful extra features. I think will add more punch to what you're doing. And
Awesome.
yeah, let's keep at it. And hopefully this year is going to be way more exciting than last with this stuff, and much more informative.
Very cool. Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate you having me on. And who knows, maybe next year we can come on and do another one, and hopefully, be able to show some new features and all the success that we've had using visual sitemaps.
Fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. There's one I'll send you a link to, which is our latest, which is flows, where you as an agency can start visualizing a lot of different strategies for um, funnels and any other kind of conversion tactics and processes for um, just customer acquisition, basically, of all kinds, because these things are getting quite sophisticated, and we have a flow tool that is very fine-tuned to showcase that with some good examples and templates of um, uh, tactics and things. But I'll start with that after this call. Cool,
Awesome.
William. Where can folks find you and your consultants agency if they're interested?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. If you just look up William Mingione, Mingione. Or you can check out our company, slaterockautomation.com. You can fill out a contact form there, or DM me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. And yeah, those are probably the best ways to get a hold of me. I also have a personal website, williammingione.com, but don't really use
Cool.
that on too much. So yeah,
Right on. Well, William, well, thanks so much again, and look forward to our next session. Some new goodies.
absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
No problem. Be well.
All right.
Take care now.